Peace, peace, peace. How everybody doing? Welcome back to another episode of Rational Lens Podcast, where truth and logic comes into focus. I'm your host, Minkefra Ray, aka Rock Barzini, and today we back with another episode. So today I'm bringing y'all some cosmology. We're going to be breaking down cosmology. We're going to be breaking down dimensions, planes, the omniverse, the multiverse. We're going to explain all this stuff and what it's about. But before I start, everybody help the podcast. Press like, subscribe. Let's get this thing going. Let's get this thing popping. All it takes is a press of a button. You ain't got to pay nothing to press that button. To tune in. If y'all into information and y'all want to get enlightened and share information, this is the place to do it. This is what I'm here to do. So today, everybody, we're going to be talking about hypercosmology. We're going to be talking about the box, and I'm going to explain what the cosmic box is, and we're going to be talking about the omniverse. I know you'll hear everybody talking about the omniverse, multiverse, all these things, the scientific particles that make up our universe, atoms and protons and neutrons and things of that nature. We're going to get into all that. So the first thing I want to start off talking about is I want to talk about the box, the cosmic box. And we hear that a lot. We're in a box. To think outside the box, we hear these terminologies, right? And we have to understand what that really means. Some of us really knows what it means and understand what it means. Some of us don't. But when we talk about the box and them putting us inside of a box, this is the science that they use to put us in, to entrap us into the everyday norm, into the everyday rhythm and frequency and vibration and tone of energy that they got us trapped in. You understand? And using our energy for their own agenda, for their own purpose. You understand? So they can have control and power over us. You understand? Being in this box. And the box really has something to do with your mind and limiting the power of your mind. This is why, and the reason why they put it inside of a box. Or we hear the terminology, thinking outside of the box. Because when you're thinking inside the box, that means that you're dealing with the everyday norm of what's going on in the world, in reality, in society, in everyday life. So we have to learn how to think outside the box of what they told us. Because we have to understand this. When we're dealing with a box and you're putting things inside of a box, now we're dealing with the laws of physics, the natural laws of physics. Now we're dealing with science and the natural laws of physics. You understand? Because everything that's inside of a box must conform to the laws and dynamics, the physical dynamics of that box. Because that box is shaped a certain way. So everything that's in it have to conform to that shape. And it's that shape of the box that dictates the laws. You understand? That dictate the laws and the natural laws of how things should move in that box. And that rhythm is the everyday algorithm of everyday life. You understand? The everyday algorithm of how we think. Because even our thoughts conform to the box if we don't think outside of it. You understand? So when we're talking about being put inside of a box, I'm not just talking about psychologically, economically, spiritually, socially, politically, so forth. You understand? They put everything inside of a box. Matter of fact, the natural order of things as we know it is in a box. You understand? The whole universe, the whole cosmic universe is inside of a box. You understand? And I want to explain a little bit more what that box is. So let me explain a little bit more of what that box is. Right? Because we have to understand the laws of physics. And the only way we can learn the laws of physics, we have to understand those laws and what govern and dictate those laws inside of that box of why it does what it does, the constant rhythm of what it does. You understand? So when we're dealing on a cosmic level of the box, all things that's inside of a box, our universe, when we're dealing with our universe, the multiverse, the omniverse, is inside of a box. And why? And how I know it's inside of a box? Because putting things inside of a box create the natural rhythm of how they should move and how things should go. Putting things in a box bind things in a certain rhythm, or I should say algorithm, of how things should connect and combine. You understand? And how they should move, and the laws of how they should move according to the law of physics. So we wouldn't have a universe, we wouldn't have a multiverse, we wouldn't have a omniverse if things wasn't in a box, because those things that make up the omniverse, the multiverse, the universe, is constantly going through the same pattern, the same rhythm, the same movement, the same laws of physics. That's how I know it's inside of a box. So scientifically and mathematically, the universe and everything in it is inside of a box. That's how things become combined to one another and create some type of rhythm to each other of how they should move and how they should relate to one another. And because of that, that's how certain things come into existence. Things come into existence because of certain function and a certain rhythm of how things combine and interact with each other. And we see the constant same rhythm in life and in nature of how things come into existence. So things have to be inside of a box. So the whole cosmology is inside of a box. And I want to read something to y'all. Right? It says the boxes are infinite, self-contained structures. So things that's inside of a box has to bend to the laws, physical laws of how the box is structured. And so a box is infinitely self-contained structure, positioning at a finality on the finality index and have the unique property of containing all objects of existence 0 and 1. So the boxes are infinite, self-contained, a self-contained structure, right? Why is it self-contained? Everything is self-contained. Because we know the all in all, the absolute power, the absolute supreme power is self-contained. Why? Because it's self. It controls self. It interacts with self. You understand? And it's dictating the physics of itself. And it's interacting with itself from the highest level, what we call the macroscopic level, to the microscopic level. It's self-contained. You understand? And it has the intelligence to do that. And when we're talking about intelligence, we know intelligence is an extension of the mind. So the all absolute supreme power is mind, and everything come into existence from the mind. You understand? The universe itself is mental. The laws of what they call mentalism. First, let's read that. The law of mentalism. Right? So when we talk about the laws of mentalism, which is one of the natural laws that the all omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscience, absolute supreme power deals with, right? The law of mentalism is the principle that the all is mind. Y'all hear that? The law of mentalism is the principle that the all is mind. So everything that you see is a mental aspect of the all. And the all is mind. So we're looking at different aspects of the all. When it comes to trees, houses, bugs, insects, birds, people, ducks, rhinoceros, elephants, all the stuff that we see in existence is an aspect of the mind. And it's all connected to one mind. So everything is connected through one mind. And that one mind articulates divine intelligence. So when we're dealing with the law of mentalism, it says the law of mentalism is the principle that the all is mind. And everything is a manifestation of thought. It is one of the 7 Hermetic principles suggested that the physical and the mental world are direct results of a universal mind or consciousness. This concept is explored in books like the Kabbalion, the law of mentalism, which explains that the power of thought can be used to create and shapes one reality. You understand? So it's the mind that shapes the reality. We're going to get back to talking about what your reality is. You understand? Because your reality is the book that you write. Your book of life is written in your reality. And your reality is made up your experiences that you have. So your experiences is what make up your book, which manifests as your reality. It's all coming from your mind. You are the author of your own book. You are the author of your own experiences. You are the author of your own reality, like I said. And you are the author of your own book. As soon as you're born, you start to write your own book. And that book is based on how you spiritually advance and grow and the obstacles that you go through to expand spiritually. You understand? You write that. That's your book, but we're going to talk about that. So when we're dealing with the Kabbalion is a law of Hermetic principles. And one of the Hermetic principles is the law of mentalism. And the law of mentalism is the principle that the all is mind and that everything is a manifestation of thought. You got to get your mind right because that's what you are. You are the mind is you. And through your mind, that's how you create. This is where you get the word man or woman. The word man comes from a Sanskrit word that means manas, which means mind. So when we're talking about the mind, we're talking about everything that we see in existence is an aspect of the mind, including man and woman. You understand? It says everything is mental. The law posits that the universe itself is mental and that reality is a creation of thought. The universe is mental. So everything that you see out there in the universe, the sun, the planet, the stars, the moons, the asteroids, the galaxies, the universes, the solar systems, are all created from a mental standpoint. It's created from the all mind. You understand? And the all mind is the source. The all mind is God. You understand? And the reality is a creation of thought. So the universe is constantly thinking. Atoms is constantly thinking. Subatomic particles are constantly thinking. Light particles are constantly thinking. Animals, people, humans, insects, all are constantly thinking on some type of level. And they all bring their reality into existence through some type of form of mind. You understand that they have, or what level of mind that they're on, that they're thinking on. It's the level that they can create on, create their reality on. You understand that some have higher consciousness levels than others. Human beings supposed to be the highest level of consciousness on the planet. Because we're supposed to be able to use our mind a little bit more efficient than all the other things of nature. You understand? Number 2, Mind creates the reality. Any physical creation, whether a tangible object or an idea, must first exist as a thought or concept in the mind. Number 3, the applications. The proponent of mentalism suggests that by controlling and focusing thought, individuals can influence their experiences and achieve personal growth. So that goes back when I talk about writing your own book. As soon as you're born and you're able to think and make your own decisions, that's when you start to create your own book. Even before that, because you came here through the power of mind, through the all in all, the source, and it thought you into existence. So it already had a plan for you to come into the existence. It already thought you out into existence of what's supposed to happen and what you're supposed to face in your challenges, and the model of structure which is supposed to be used to help you advance and grow spiritually. All that's already been thought out, because that's what the universe is based on. It's based on mind, mentalism, the law of mentalism. So when we talk about divine intelligence, intelligence is coming from the mind. And we know that the universe is intelligence and deals with divine intelligence because everything is dealing on a mathematical equation. Everything is mathematics. Everything has some type of mathematical equation. So there we have the intelligence, the logic, and the reason that the source, aka God, or the absolute supreme power, deals with. And it creates itself, and it sustains itself, it interacts itself, and influences itself. You understand? And it creates its own experiences and its own reality for itself on different levels. You understand? This is the all in all, which is mind. And one of the universal laws is mentalism. You understand? Number 4, the source of power. The mind is seen as the source of all power. You hear that? The mind is seen as the source of all power. And by mastering the mental discipline and positive thinking, here goes another key thing, mastering mental discipline. A lot of us don't have control of our own mind. This is how come we get caught up in all different type of things on this planet, in this physical realm, or this objective realm. Because we don't have the mental discipline to not deal with it if it's not helping us develop and grow. You understand? We don't have the mental discipline to not deal with it or to reject it. You understand? And it says positive thinking. We don't have that's a discipline to have positive thinking. A lot of people ain't disciplined enough to have positive thinking, and they have negative thinking. That's why their reality is negative. That's why they're dealing with chaos and mayhem. And their book that they're writing, which is their reality, from their experiences that they have from having negative thinking, because they don't have the mental discipline, you understand? It's chaotic. Mayhem, destruction. You understand? This is why their reality is like that. It says one can unlock their full potential by using the mind. Number 5, historical content. Right? Historical content. The concept has root in ancient philosophy, with modern interpretations appearing in the works like the Kabbalion. The laws of mentalism, which describes how thought force can grow both mental and physical phenomena. You understand? So when we're dealing with thought, we're dealing with mind. And mind is made up of what we call ether. Ether is the source of all natural elements. All natural elements come from out of the ether. Ether is a mental force, a mental gas. You understand? This is what thought is made up of. It's made up of these mental gases that they call ether. And these mental gases is made up of something they call etherons. You understand? Etherons is the physical particle that makes up the mental gas that we use to create thought. And thought is what brings our reality into existence. It's how we create our reality. It's how we write our book. It's the same way how we record everything. It's how we record our book in our mind. This is when they talk about the Akasha records. This is what the Akasha records is about. The word Akasha means ether. So all things in the universe is created mentally through the ether, through the mental plane. And there's many different levels of the mental plane. You have the higher mental plane and the lower mental plane. You understand? But all things are recorded through the mind, so all things is recorded through the ether. And those etherions, those particles that make up thought, create what we call electromagnetic energy. The way they rotate, the way they interact with each other and rotate, they're the ones that create the electromagnetic energy, which is the light. You understand? So the reason why we see things through light, but light is created through ether. You understand? So going back, if ether is mind, we're creating our reality through what we see, bringing things into existence, because existence, all things come into existence through light. The way it reflects in our eyes and affects our brain, stimulates our brain, reflects of what we see. So how we bring things into existence is based on the mind. What we see is based on the mind. We create our own reality through the mind. You understand? So everything is mental. Everything is the mind. And your mind is made up of those little particles that we call etherians. Not etherians, but etherons. And you also have etheric beings that exist in the mental realm. You understand? So these particles that we call etherons, they're the ones that create wave particles and create light, electromagnetism. You understand? And through electromagnetism that deals with the light force is how we bring things into existence. So we are mind. You understand? So we're talking about the law of mentalism, and the law of mentalism is the principle that the all is mind. Everything that you see is mind, and that everything is a manifestation of thought. So your thought is created from the mind. The mind is made up of things which they call ether. Ether is made up of particles which they call etherons. And the way these etherons interact and move, they create some type of electromagnetism. They create light. Light particles are made up of what we call quantums or photons. And these photons can manifest as a wave or particle. You understand? So the objective world that we see are made up of what we call photons or quantums, which exist on a subquantum level. You understand? And this is how we create our reality of what we see. And our thoughts, the free will of our thought, is what create our reality. And our reality is based on our experiences. Our experiences is based on our free will of how we think. The discipline of how we think. You understand? So when you're writing your own book, like I said, when you come into this physical plane, as soon as you start to learn how to exercise your free will of thought, you start to write your own book. And your book is based on your experiences. And that's your reality. And it's being recorded in the mind, the Akasha. So when we talk about the Akasha records, everything in the universe is recorded in the Akasha records. And the word Akasha means mind, ether. You understand? And that's what we are. We are mental beings. It says it is one of the 7 Hermetic principles, suggesting that the physical and the mental world are a direct result of universal mind or consciousness. The word consciousness means mind. To be conscious and aware of something, you have to use your mind to do that. It's your mind that activates your brain and stimulate electro impulses in your brain so that you can be aware of what you see. And those electromagnetic stimulations that happen in your mind are created from something that we call ether. And ether is made up of what we call etherons. These are the particles of what thought is made of. And the way these particles move and interact with each other is what creates your whole reality. So your book that you write is based on how you think. You understand? And the deep thing is about it, everybody has to write their own book. Nobody can write your book for you. And when you're writing your book, you're supposed to be reading your book that you write and learn from your experiences so you can grow and advance spiritually. You understand? That's how come when you pass away, what they call a life review is everything that you did in your life. So you're re-looking over your book. And you're learning from your experiences that you had, what you shouldn't have did, and what you should have did and what you shouldn't have did. This is all going on you reflecting on your life review when you pass away, looking at your own book that you wrote, your life book. But the thing is, a lot of people write their own book and they never even read it. If y'all understand what I'm saying. A lot of people write their own book and they never even read it. What I mean by that, they never read it to learn from their experiences to know what to do and what not to do. Some people do, some people don't. Some people never read their book until it's time for them to die. And they have their life review and their life pass before their eyes. And then they say, oh, that's what that was about. That's why I met that person. You understand? Because like I told you, the absolute supreme power, the source, the all mind, thought you into existence. And if it thought you into existence, it already had a plan for you. And made a model for you to live by so you can have certain experiences in your life that help you grow and advance spiritually. So your life had already been planned out. You're just following the model. So we can say God already wrote your book, but you just have to catch up in the experiences in your book and read it. If y'all understand what I'm saying. So this is the law of mentalism, right? So I talked about the Akasha records. Give me 1 minute because I want to break that down for y'all so y'all can understand what the Akasha records are. The Akasha records is the library of the universe, right? That's what the Akasha records is. It's the library of the universe. So when we talk about the Omniverse, right? When we talk about the overvoid, the Omniverse, the multiverse, the universe, right? These things are all recorded. What happened in these realms are all recorded in the Akasha. You understand? So the divine intelligence or the divine architect that built the universe and everything in it is an author, a writer. You understand? And it writes down verses. You know, when somebody write a verse dealing with music or when they're writing a book. That's why the divine intelligent architect is an author. And if you look in the universe, you see all the things that it wrote down and how they supposed to move and so forth. You understand? So God is an author and he's writing down verses. That's why they call it a universe. A verse is something that you write according to scripture, publications, or music. And in these verses, you put in your thoughts, your ideals, your concepts of what you feel, or your experiences of what you went through. You understand? So when we talk about the grand architect, which is divine intelligence that created the universe, the multiverse, and the omniverse, he's writing a book of what he feel and his experiences based on some type of emotion. You understand? So when we're talking about vibrations, frequencies, tones, sounds, energies, schemes, and moods of vibrations, this is what the universe is all based on. The best concept is this. When we're talking about the omniverse, we talk about the multiverse, and we talk about the universe. The concept is, the best concept I can give y'all is this. It's like a book. A book is made up of what? Pages, right? Those pages are the universe. The stuff that's written on the pages, right, are the words, right? The words is what would give definition to the page. Those words are made up of letters, consonants, vowels, sounds, right? So when we're dealing with words and letters, we're dealing with vibration, frequency, and sounds of energy, and schemes and moods of sound of energy, right? So that's how we know that the omniverse is made up of energy. And energy manifests itself in different frequencies, sounds, vibrations, schemes, and moods of vibration of energy. That will be the letters. Then those letters become words. And then these letters can be written in many different words. This is the multiverse. You understand? In the universe, the different way that the universe can be interpreted. Right? When you start writing down these words on pages, those pages are the universe. And in a book, you got multiple pages. Sometimes you got 20 pages. Sometimes you got 30 pages, 100 pages. But on these pages are different words, different letters expressed in many different schemes and moods and vibrations and tones of energy. And somebody's expressing their emotions, their thoughts, their experiences. You understand? That's what the page is. So the words are the particles. You understand? And those particles can be interpreted in many different ways. And it's put on the paper, which is the universe. And in a book, you have many different pages. So you have many different universes, which make up a book. And that book is a multiverse. Because a multiverse consists of multiple universes, multiple pages, multiple words, multiple letters, which can be interpreted in many different infinite ways. You understand? So the multiverse consists of those pages, which are a universe. And then you have a bookcase or a bookshelf with many different compartments that you can fit many different books in. That bookcase is the omniverse. It's the framework. And you can fit many different books into many different categories. So this is the best way of my analogy to explain the omniverse, the multiverse, and the universe, and those particles that make up the universe. You understand? Which we'll call atoms and subatomic particles. Quantum particles like photons. You understand? And etherons. So that's my part. This is part 1. If y'all following me, come back. I'm going to finish explaining. And when I come back, we're going to get into explaining what the Akasha records is, which are the mental records of the universe. And then we're going to start getting into the deep stuff of hypercosmology, the omniverse, the multiverse, and things of that nature. So I hope y'all come back. this is what I call, and everybody check in with me, Rational Lens Podcast, or Rational Lens Perspective, where truth and logic comes together. So I'll be back on the next installment.